Day 68, Judges 9 through 12. Abimelech, Tola, Jair, Jephthah. 9. Abimelech. 10. Tola, Jair, Jephthah. 11. Jephthah and his daughter. 12. Jephthah and Ephraim. Chapter 10. The pleasure of sin, the gods of this world, cannot be our satisfaction. Verse 14. True happiness and safety are only in God, to whom a true penitent will live for himself for correction as God may see fit, owning that his sin is highly malignant in its desert. Verse 10.
Chapter 9. Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem to his mother's brothers, and spoke with them, and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether is it better for you that the sons of Jerubbaal, who are 70 persons, rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. His mother's brothers spoke of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem all these words, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired vain and light fellows who followed him. He went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons, on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. All the men of Shechem assembled themselves together, and all the house of Milo, and went and made Abimelech king, by the oak of the pillar that was in Shechem. When they told it to Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice, and cried, and said to them, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. The trees went forth one time to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, You reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Should I leave my fatness, with which by me they honor God and man, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the fig tree, You come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Should I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? The trees said to the vine, You come and reign over us. The vine said to them, Should I leave my new wine, which cheers God and man, and go to wave back and forth over the trees? Then said all the trees to the bramble, You come and reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade, and if not, let fire come out of the bramble, and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Now therefore, if you have dealt truly and righteously, and that you have made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you, and risked his life, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian, and you are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If you then have dealt truly and righteously with Jerubbaal, and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech, and devour the men of Shechem, and the house of Milo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem, and from the house of Milo, and devour Abimelech. Jotham ran away and fled, and went to Beer, and lived there, for fear of Abimelech his brother. Abimelech was prince over Israel 3 years. God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and that their blood might be laid on Abimelech their brother who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. The men of Shechem set liers in wait for him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who came along the way by them, and it was told Abimelech. Gaal, the son of Abed, came with his brothers, and went over to Shechem, and the men of Shechem put their trust in him. They went out into the field, and gathered their vineyards, and trod the grapes, and held a festival, and went into the house of their God, and did eat and drink, and cursed Abimelech. Gaal, the son of Ebed, said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Isn't he the son of Jerubbaal, and Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? Would that this people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech. He said to Abimelech, Increase your army, and come out. When Zebul, the ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled. He sent messengers to Abimelech secretly, saying, Behold, Gaal, the son of Ebed, and his brothers are come to Shechem, and behold, they constrain the city to take part against you. Now therefore, up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be, that in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, you shall rise early and rush on the city, and behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, then you may do to them as you shall find occasion. Abimelech rose up, and all the people who were with him by night, and they laid wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Gaal, the son of Ebed, stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. And Abimelech rose up, and the people who were with him from the ambush. When Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Behold, there come people down from the tops of the mountains. Zebul said to him, You see the shadow of the mountains as if they were men. Gaal spoke again and said, Behold, there come people down by the middle of the land, and one company comes by the way of the oak of Maonanim. Then said Zebul to him, Where is now your mouth that you said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Is this not his people that you have despised? Go out now, I pray, and fight with them. Gaal went out before the men of Shechem, and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and there fell many wounded, even to the entrance of the gate. Abimelech lived at Aramah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers, that they should not dwell in Shechem. It happened on the next day, that the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. He took the people and divided them into 3 companies, and laid wait in the field. And he looked, and behold, the people came forth out of the city. He rose up against them and struck them. Abimelech and the companies that were with him rushed forward, and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. And the 2 companies rushed on all who were in the field, and struck them. Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city, and killed the people who were therein, and he beat down the city, and sowed it with salt. When all the men of the tower of Shechem heard of it, they entered into the stronghold of the house of Elbereth. It was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. Abimelech got him up to Mount Zamon, he and all the people who were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, and cut down a bow from the trees, and took it up, and laid it on his shoulder. And he said to the people who were with him, What you have seen me do, hurry up and do as I have done. All the people likewise cut down every man his bow, and followed Abimelech, and put them to the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and encamped against Thebez, and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and there fled all the men and women, and all they of the city, and shut themselves in it, and got up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech came to the tower, and fought against it, and drew near to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. A certain woman cast an upper millstone on Abimelech's head, and broke his skull. Then he called hastily to the young man his armor-bearer, and said to him, Draw your sword, and kill me, that men not say of me, A woman killed him. His young man thrust him through, and he died. When the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed every man to his place. Thus God requited the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did to his father, in killing his 70 brothers. And all the wickedness of the men of Shechem did God requite on their heads, and on them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal. Chapter 10. After Abimelech, there arose to save Israel Tola the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, who lived in Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel 23 years, and died and was buried in Shamir. After him arose Jair, the Gileadite, and he judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkey colts, and they had 30 cities, which are called Havoth Jair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. Jair died and was buried in Camon. The children of Israel again did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and served the Baals, and the Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. And they forsook the Lord, and didn't serve him. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the children of Ammon. They vexed and oppressed the children of Israel that year. 18 years they oppressed all the children of Israel that were beyond the Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. The children of Ammon passed over the Jordan to fight also against Judah, and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. The children of Israel cried to the Lord, saying, We have sinned against you, even because we have forsaken our God, and have served the Baals. The Lord said to the children of Israel, Didn't I save you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines? The Sidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Maonites did oppress you, and you cried to me, and I saved you out of their hand. Yet you have forsaken me, and served other gods. Therefore I will save you no more. Go and cry to the gods which you have chosen. Let them save you in the time of your distress. The children of Israel said to the Lord, We have sinned. Do to us whatever seems good to you. Only deliver us, we pray you, this day. They put away the foreign gods from among them and served the Lord, and his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel. Then the children of Ammon were gathered together and encamped in Gilead. The children of Israel assembled themselves together and encamped in Mizpah. The people, the princes of Gilead, said one to another, What man is he who will begin to fight against the children of Ammon? He shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Chapter 11. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a prostitute, and Gilead became the father of Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore him sons, and when his wife's sons grew up, they drove out Jephthah and said to him, You shall not inherit in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman. Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. And there were gathered vain fellows to Jephthah, and they went out with him. It happened after a while that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. It was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, Come and be our chief, that we may fight with the children of Ammon. Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, Didn't you hate me, and drive me out of my father's house? And why are you come to me now when you are in distress? The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, Therefore we are turned again to you now, that you may go with us, and fight with the children of Ammon, and you shall be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, If you bring me home again to fight with the children of Ammon, and the Lord deliver them before me, shall I be your head? The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, The Lord shall be witness between us, surely according to your word we will do. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and chief over them, and Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, What have you to do with me, that you are come to me to fight against my land? The king of the children of Ammon answered to the messengers of Jephthah, Because Israel took away my land when he came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon even to the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably. Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon, and he said to him, Thus says Jephthah, Israel didn't take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon, but when they came up from Egypt, and Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom didn't listen. In the same way he sent to the king of Moab, but he would not, and Israel abode in Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness, and went around in the land of Edom, and in the land of Moab, and came by the east side of the land of Moab, and they encamped on the other side of the Arnon. But they didn't come within the border of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, Let us pass, we pray you, through your land to my place. But Sihon didn't trust Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together, and encamped in Jahaz, and fought against Israel. The Lord, the God of Israel, delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. So Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that country. They possessed all the border of the Amorites, from the Arnon even to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness even to the Jordan. So now the Lord, the God of Israel, has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel, and should you possess them? Won't you possess that which Chemosh your God gives you to possess? So whoever the Lord our God has dispossessed from before us, them we will possess. Now are you anything better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel, or did he ever fight against them? Well, Israel lived in Heshbon and its towns, and in Aroer and its towns, and all the cities that are along by the side of the Arnon, 300 years. Why didn't you recover them within that time? I therefore have not sinned against you, but you do me wrong to war against me. The Lord, the judge, be judge this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. However, the king of the children of Ammon didn't listen to the words of Jephthah which he sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he passed over to the children of Ammon. Jephthah vowed a vow to the Lord, and said, If you will indeed deliver the children of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be, that whatever comes forth from the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, it shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hand. He struck them from Aroer until you come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and to Abel-cheramim, with a very great slaughter. So the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Jephthah came to Mizpah his house, and behold his daughter came out to meet him with tambourines and with dances, and she was his only child. Besides her he had neither son nor daughter. It happened when he saw her, that he tore his clothes, and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are one of those who trouble me, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I can't go back. She said to him, My father, you have opened your mouth to the Lord. Do to me according to that which has proceeded out of your mouth, because the Lord has taken vengeance for you on your enemies, even on the children of Ammon. She said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may depart and go down on the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my companions. He said, Go. He sent her away for 2 months, and she departed, she and her companions, and mourned her virginity on the mountains. It happened at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow which he had vowed, and she was a virgin. It was a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to celebrate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite 4 days in a year. Chapter 12. The men of Ephraim were gathered together, and passed northward. And they said to Jephthah, Why did you pass over to fight against the children of Ammon, and didn't call us to go with you? We will burn your house on you with fire. Jephthah said to them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, you didn't save me out of their hand. When I saw that you didn't save me, I put my life in my hand, and passed over against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into my hand. Why then are you come up to me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead, and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck Ephraim, because they said, You are fugitives of Ephraim, you Gileadites. in the midst of Ephraim and in the midst of Manasseh. The Gileadites took the fords of the Jordan against the Ephraimites. It was so, that when any of the fugitives of Ephraim said, "Let me go over," the men of Gilead said to him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he said no, then they said to him, "Say now Shibboleth." And he said Sibboleth, for he couldn't manage to pronounce it right. Then they laid hold on him, and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. There fell at that time of Ephraim 42,000. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died, and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. After him Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons, and 30 daughters he sent abroad, and 30 daughters he brought in from abroad for his sons. He judged Israel 7 years. Ibzan died and was buried at Bethlehem. After him Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite judged Israel. He had 40 sons, and 30 sons, who rode on 70 donkey colts, and he judged Israel 8 years. Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite died, and he was buried in Pirathon, in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites.